to to share this taste of saging. And I have so much appreciation also to Hawk for his in-depth class on legacy, and to Rick for his absolutely brilliant insights on story intelligence. And if you haven't had the opportunity to join their incredible classes, well, you still may be able to view them on Reb Mark's YouTube. Is that true?
They're all in there in the Jump in the Mosh Pit YouTube channel.
Great. Well, I'm going to share my screen now. Okay, here we go. There we go. Okay.
Can I just remind everybody that if you want to spotlight Eliana, you can do that yourself. I'm not going to be spotlighting her, but leave that in your hands. And the way to do that is go up to the right-hand corner of your screen. It'll open up, it'll say view, and you click on that and you'll go to speaker view. I forget what happens when she's screen sharing. I think she becomes little anyway. But if anytime you want her to be big, that's the way to try to do it, okay?
Okay, thank you. Well, I am going to tell you a story. It's a true story, and it begins more than 2 decades ago. Our hero was approaching his 60th birthday, and although he was really very successful and well known, who'd worked tirelessly and joyfully all his life, he was experiencing an unfamiliar uneasiness, even depression. So he did what worked before for him. He threw himself into his work and surrounded himself with busyness, but he still couldn't escape those feelings. This time, he knew something beneath the surface was stirring in the depths of him. And to top it all off, when he got up in the middle of the night and looked at himself in the mirror, there was an old man looking back at him. Well, he didn't feel old. He figured his body might be betraying him, but probably the mirror wasn't. One thing for sure, he did not want to become a sad geriatric case, following a predictable pattern of retirement, physical diminishment, rocking chair existence, and then, of course, inevitably death. And he also knew that the blessing and curse of longevity was caused by advances in medical science and healthy living. Well, never before had there been a problem like this. You have to understand, in the early 1900s, life expectancy was 46 years. Now, the average life expectancy is 80 years. So really, over the past century, we've gained 34 more years of expected life. Wow. Well, he still had the question of what does one do with all these extra years? And he also was still uneasy. He was even afraid. So our hero looked into the face of his fear, and he knew he had to do something. So he scheduled a 40-day solo retreat. It was his idea of going on a vision quest. Well, that really didn't give him many answers. So after he was convinced that somewhere out there, somebody had to know the secret, he began to study. Now, he was pretty well steeped in Judaism, but he studied with Sufi masters, Buddhist teachers, Native American shaman, Catholic monks, Christian ministers. And as he studied and sought the wisdom of others, he gradually realized, to his great surprise, that he was being initiated as an elder, a sage who carries and offers wisdom for the welfare of his family, his tribe, his society, his nation, and his world. After 3 years of study, he founded the Spiritual Eldering Institute. Well, I guess you've probably guessed who our hero is. Our own beloved Reb Zalman. Reb Zalman put forth a new model of aging in the time of the greatest expanse of longevity ever known. He wrote his book, From Aging to Saging, a revolutionary approach to aging. And he gave birth to saging mentorship programs, training teachers to mentor others about going from aging to saging. Well, I'm one of those saging mentors, and I'll be offering 4 free Zoom classes on Reb Zalman's revolutionary advice. Our Wisdom Circle will discuss practical approaches to embracing life and living the second half of life with joy and compassion and awareness. And we'll explore powerful tools. We won't just talk about it, we will actually do it to try and bring about the expression of our personal wisdom as we move forward in life. I think that the very first question that Reb Zalman would ask us is, who are we? Well, we all carry a story within us. The most significant story we will ever tell is the story of our lives. And our most important audience to hear that story is ourselves. As Rick in his fantastic class last week said about the story intelligence, our stories come from individual history as well as shared history. Our individual history is personal. It's influenced by inborn traits, personality strengths and shortcomings, personal decisions, responses to our own challenges, our hopes and our dreams, just to mention a few. And our shared history comes from our culture, from recent or not so recent historical events, from the expectations of our society, our religious community, our nation, and our world. So first, let's take a look at our shared history. Most of us were raised by stay-at-home moms. And some of us stayed home to raise our children, and some of us went to work. And I know from my own personal experience, when I went to college, my father told me that the whole reason he was sending me to college was to get my MRS degree. And when I graduated from college and got a job, my mother expressed great disappointment that I was going to enter the work market. We were also raised in an era before a technological revolution. Back then, cell phones didn't exist and phones had dials. Letters were written on paper and fast food was a cheese sandwich. We lived through a transition from when schools were either Black or white only to the time when schools were integrated. Little Ruby Bridges was one of the first to take that step into the future. And here she is pictured with US Marshals escorting her on her first day of school as she took that dangerous walk to first grade. The school she attended had only 4 other Black students. The white students who were enrolled to go to that school for first grade failed to show up for class. They didn't come all year long. We went to school in the shadow of the atomic bomb. Now, I don't know about you, but I bet some of you remember atomic bomb drills when we were in school. We were cautioned to take shelter underneath our desks as if that was going to do any good, right? Well, as time went on, some wise person finally recognized the futility of all that. So our children no longer had to practice atomic bomb drills under their desks. But now, unfortunately, Our children and grandchildren have to practice school shooting drills. And those drills that they practice are much more likely to save their lives. We saw the fallout of Rosa Parks' Courageous No. To some of us, we thought, well, what's the big deal? She just sat in the front of the bus. Who cares? And others recognized the courage that it took for her to move from the back of the bus. Many people have said that music is the language of the soul. Yeah, that's true. We heard Johnny Cash warn us to walk the line. We knew what it meant when Elvis reminded us that only fools walk in. And we heard the Beatles version of the Beahafta as they sang, "All we need is love." Mark.
Oh, that's my cue.
Yeah.
All we need is love. All we need is love. Ah, na, 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 na. All we need is love, love. Love is all we need. Everybody now. All we need is love. All together now. All we need is love. All we need is love, love. Love is all we need. She loves you, yeah, 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 yeah.
Thank you. Someday maybe we can make our own version of the Beahafta with those words. We were all moved by Dr. King's dream. And we were shattered through the death of a dream, which eventually became an indelible mark on our hearts, minds, and soul. Some of us went to war to keep our country free. Some of us burned our draft cards to keep our country just. We went to war on poverty. We declared war on drugs. And we waged war on AIDS. Some of us shattered glass ceilings, while others shattered stained glass ceilings. We reclaimed Israel. We went into outer space. We created cyberspace. We made a better world. What a life we've had. Our collective history has molded us into the people we are today. We changed and we changed the world, but we were also molded by our personal history. Some of us accomplished dreams. We returned to school. Others had an encore profession. Some accomplished our life desire to become a spiritual director, a rabbinic pastor, a rabbi, a teacher, an artist, an author. Perhaps those small steps that Ruby Bridges took so many years ago were more significant than Neil Armstrong's first steps on the moon. We've gone from the mamas and the papas to the nanas and the papas. We've marched for change. We march for climate change. We raise our fist to declare Black Lives Matter. We advocate for gun control. We demand justice from the Supreme Court judges. We support voting rights and women's rights, and we canvass for our favorite candidate and contribute to their cause. And yet so many things still need to change. We have suffered through a worldwide pandemic that's brought death to 1 million of our citizens. Schools went viral. We were forced to say our final goodbyes. to our loved ones with the impersonal help of Facebook. Most of us celebrated our first COVID vaccine, and others insisted personal freedom allowed them to take the risk. In response to the worldwide pandemic, our isolation enabled us to become a generation of baby Zoomers. Most of us are off our rockers. We learn, we teach, we volunteer, we hike, create, march for justice, visit friends. And the very, very true fact is that the longer we live, the older we get. And as we age, we change. I want you to think for a moment about the word elderly. Just think about it. Imagine a person who you would see across a crowded room and think of them as elderly. Well, there goes an elderly old woman. Think of what characteristics you would describe of them as far as personal, physical, mental, emotional. So what comes to mind when you think of elderly? And now, on the other hand, think of the word elder. Draw a picture in your mind, in your imagination, of a person that you would describe as an elder. Think of how they might seem from across the room. What do they look like physically? Can you imagine what they might sound like if they were talking to you? How would you imagine their mind and their thoughts and what they may say? And what would you think that their spiritual life might be? So what comes to mind when you think of an elder? And so now we're going to take about 5 minutes to go to our first breakthrough room to discuss what images and thoughts come to your mind when you think of elderly. And then also, what images and thoughts come to your mind when you think of elder? Okay, Reb Mark, can you take us to our breakthrough rooms, please?
Yes, so I've prepared the rooms. There are 3 of you do not at this moment have videos on, but I'm going to send you on your way. If for some reason we need to rearrange rooms, we'll do so, but we only have 5 minutes for this. So there's going to be 2 to a room, and Geek is into hate. Eliana, don't join the room. Oh. I'm going to go to room 7. That's okay. You're, hold on a second. I'm going to move her to room 7. Okay, now we've got 2 to a room, except for that Andrew just joined us, and he disappeared. Okay, but otherwise we have 2 to a room.
Is Mary Rita in a room with someone?
Yeah,
Okay.
all righty. Okay,
Because I was in her room and then you asked me to come back.
Yeah, I did that.
Okay, good.
I didn't know whether you wanted to be in a room, but B, I needed to put somebody else in a room.
Okay.
And hopefully everybody's in a room with somebody, and that everybody's sharing there. Okay, so we said 5 minutes.
5 minutes.
It's probably 4 minutes from by now. I'll make it 4:30.
Okay, good.
Okay. I can tell you, we can do it together.
Let's do it together.
Okay. When I think of somebody elderly walking into the room or just as somebody elderly, I'm thinking of my grandmother, who was, she was old, and the older she got, there were just so many things I didn't like about her presence that gave me the creeps as a young teen, and then as a teenager. When she moved into our house, smell of the smell of prunes stewing still gives me a little upset. Her false teeth in the glass, yuck. But when I think of elder, I think of the image. I think it's a Native American saying that when an elder dies, an entire library burns to the ground. So for an elder is someone I'm looking to learn from, to mentor with, to be a role model for me, to watch how he or she lives their life with grace and curiosity, and with the ease of who they are by the time we've reached at that point.
Mhm. Well, thank you. Your description of elderly didn't sound like you really wanted to be in that category. Your teeth in the-
No, although I am feeling elderly sometimes.
Well, when I think of the word elderly, or the person that I might imagine being elderly, I see a decrepit person, unable to walk well, stooped over, um, given up on joy, having no connection with family or friends, secluded in a nursing home, no one visits. Really not my aspiration either. When I think of elder, I think of Reb Zalman. I think that although he was older and he had trouble with his physical health, he was definitely an elder, a sage, a leader, a chieftain of the tribe. In fact, when I first met him, I was at a retreat in my 30s, and it was in New York. Anyhow, I woke up very early to go to the morning service up on the roof of our dorm, and the sun was rising, and he was there in full Native American regalia. And I thought, I like this man. And he led services as the sun was rising.
So I'm going to close the room in 30 seconds because it's 60 seconds to go. There's a song that came to mind about elderly, is John Prine's Hello in There.
Oh,
Do you remember that song?
no. Could you sing it when we come back?
I need to pull up the lyrics, but I can. Hold on a second.
Well, let me do the questions for them in the breakout, after the breakout session, and then if that might give you some time if you could find the lyrics.
I got it. Okay,
Okay.
closing the rooms.
Okay.
30 seconds.
I hope I can come back.
Let me see what key I do it in. Just goes.
Okay, I'm going to need to share screen again.
Wait till everybody gets back.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, I don't have it on my whiteboard. Let me just do this for a minute. Okay. Are you seeing my screen?
No, we're not seeing anything. We see you.
We just see you and whoever's speaking.
Okay.
Can I be helpful in any way?
I've got it.
There you go. Okay, great.
Okay. So we had a chance to talk about elder or elderly. So if you had a choice, which would you rather be? And Reb Mark, if you could call on people who are raising their hands, if you want to raise your hand and share.
Sure. You can either raise your hand virtually or just raise your hand in the room. Helene, start us off.
So it's interesting, just with this question, what came to mind is if I was in my 90s, it would be okay to be elderly, damn it, you know? Kind of like it would be a badge of long life. But I'm not sure before then I want to be called elderly. And if I hit triple digits, you certainly can call me elderly. So I'm fascinated about the timeline of this in my own head.
Thank you.
Mary Rita.
I want to be, I see myself as the elder, and I've used that talking to myself, talking about myself, and I see an elder as someone who continues to learn, is open. I want to follow kind of the way some of my teachers who have mentored me. I'd like to be able to share what I'm learning and teach what I'm learning. Helene, I love what you said about elderly, but I'd like to put it way off because it just, like I love my mother, but I put elderly with my mother and she stepped into it a lot younger than you were naming as 90. But elder, I would prefer to be.
Dan.
So I would prefer, of course, to be an elder because elder implies wisdom, growth. You're a teacher, you're a leader, you're held in esteem, all that stuff. Elderly to me and my...
May I double dip?
Oh, yeah, but Dan is...
Let me just finish.
After Dan.
If that's okay. Elderly to me implies washed up, used up, not much left. It seems to be a negative term, whereas elder is a much more respectful term. So I don't mean to say that disrespectfully, but the term elderly, I think, is used as that way.
Yeah. Go ahead, Helene. Helene, you wanted to double dip.
Okay. Yes, I can.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, okay. So I wrote a haiku a few moments ago. It says, from elder to sage, we're getting older each day. Change, grow, be alive.
Wow.
That's,
Okay. Reb Mark, can we take one more? And
yeah,
then,
and I want to acknowledge that David Sachs has joined us. David and I are starting a group called the Elderly Brothers.
Oh, good.
Yes, there's somebody else who wanted to add something. Nope. So we can
Okay.
take one more, but nobody has anything.
Well, Reb Mark, did you have something?
Only that, as I told you, because we shared a couple of things together, Eliana, that the idea of elderly brought a song to mind, which many of you might remember, John Prine's "Hello in There." You know that old trees just grow stronger, and old rivers grow wilder every day. Old people just grow lonesome, waiting for someone to say hello in there, hello. And so that's what elderly brings to mind to me, of just waiting for somebody to say hi, you know.
Yeah, here. Well, Reb Zalman had a lot to say about what an elder is. And what Reb Zalman said was that an elder is a person who's growing and learning, a person whose life has within it promise and connection to the future. An elder is in pursuit of contentment, peace, and justice, and who guards his or her birthright to these qualities. An elder is one who grows in wisdom. An elder is a person who deserves respect and honor, and whose work it is to synthesize wisdom from lifelong experiences and to formulate this into a legacy for future generations. Well, all that sounds wonderful, doesn't it? And gee whiz, that's what I want to be. But let's do a reality check. There are aspects of aging that involve our physical changes, our mental changes, emotional changes, and spiritual changes. So let's focus for a minute on some of our physical changes. Okay, here is the skinny on skin. Good Lord. Good Lord, Ethel, you can't appear in public like that. No, I want to tell you a little story about aging to saging. I was writing a paper on going from aging to saging, and my computer very nicely auto-corrected my spelling, and the sentence came out going from aging to sagging. So there's some truth in this picture. Where have all the hair follicles gone? Long time passing. Your best friend is the one who will hold your hair out of the way after a hard night of partying. We all are confronted by weighty matters. And to think in the 70s, we were wearing pants that flared at the bottom. We sometimes have trouble with our hearing. What's that you say? Yes, that was very loud, Mr. Trainer, but I said I wanted to hear your heart. We also have problems with our vision. Like to buy a vowel. 2 signs of getting older: memory loss, and I can't remember the next one. Can't remember whether I left the seat up on the toilet last night. But there's positive aspects of aging also. Humor is one of the best things about aging. We found the ability to laugh at ourselves, to enjoy the comedy of life, and to share it with others. And medical research has shown that laughter is good for our blood pressure, our immune system, our brain, and our mood. And sometimes people watch comedies while they're trying to recover from serious diseases, and it really does help. As we get older, we gain a greater sense of self-acceptance and self-appreciation. And also, in doing so, we gain a greater sense of accepting others and appreciating others. And believe it or not, there is a positive power of the aging brain. Sometimes we're so overwhelmed with the fear of losing our memory that we don't give credit to some of the other changes that are happening in our brain. And one thing about losing memory, it is a normal part of aging. Alzheimer's disease is an abnormal part of aging. But normally in aging, we do tend to forget things that happen in our short-term memory box. But long-term memories, wow, we can really go back and have a good time with them. And we can create stories from them and tell them to our friends, neighbors, children, and grandchildren. The aging brain actually does a rewiring. The neurocircuits change, and we find ourselves more content, more accepting. We have more insight and patience. And this is a function of neurology, neurological changes that happen in the aging brain. And when we study from aging to saging as a wisdom circle, we will go into some of these changes and how to appreciate them and perhaps how to increase them. Of course, when we age, we have longevity, which gives us time to grow in wisdom. So we got back to our question, who are we? Reb Zalman teaches that the story of our life is written in a book of chapters. And what he says is that each chapter corresponds to a month of the year. And each month corresponds to 7 years of our life. For example, January corresponds to birth to 7 years old. When life is new and full of promise and learning, where we learn a language, and it's never any easier. Trust me, I know from trying to learn Hebrew. We learn trust and love. And then April corresponds to ages 22 to 28. April is when nature is blossoming forth. And in the April of our lives, we blossom with new careers, new relationships, perhaps marriage. Some of us blossom with pregnancy and then children. July corresponds to the ages of 43 to 49. In July, in the month of July, the actual month of July, we suffer through the dog days of summer. And it's during this time in our life that we may be frustrated that we're working like a dog. September corresponds to the ages of 57 to 63. In September, we enjoy the cool days of fall. And in the September of our lives, we may find ourselves re-energized by a new career or the freedom of travel or financial security or looking forward to a long-awaited retirement. Now in November, the trees have shed their leaves, they're naked. And as we age, we drop our cover-ups and we stand before all as who we really are. Just like for you to take a minute and look at these chapters of your life and kind of zero in on one particular time in your life that was very good. Think about that time. think about what made it so good. What did you learn about yourself during that time? What did you learn about others? Who was most influential in your life? Now take a look at the chapters of your life again and zero in on a time that was a difficult time in your life. Come to some memories and understanding of why that time was so difficult. What did you learn about yourself and others in this difficult time? Who was most influential in your life when you were going through all this? So now let's enter another breakthrough room. And the questions that we will try to answer in the breakthrough room is to talk about a very good year, a very good time in your life, and answer the questions, what did you learn? And who is most influential? Or think about a difficult time in your life and talk about what did you learn and who is most influential. So we'll take 5 minutes in this breakout room.
So when I open the rooms, take a second just in case I need to juggle things. And 5 minutes again, Eliana?
Please, 5 minutes.
Okay. And here we go. If you end up in the same room with somebody, blame logarithm. Don't blame me. Hi, Maira.
Oh, what a treat to get you.
You're not muted, but I
Lovely.
can't hear you for some reason.
Oh, you can't? Can you? I'm not muted.
Say something?
I'm not muted.
Oh, that's odd. I
You can't hear me?
Check your volume.
Unmute my audio.
You can hear me, right? Okay. Check your computer volume. If you go to your, you know how to go to your Zoom, your audio settings?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, check that. Oh, wait a second. It's me. Now I should be able to hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can. Sorry about that. I'm having
Okay.
a little technical issue here.
So, Mark, would you like to talk about a time that was a good period of your life or one that was challenging?
Oh, I want to talk about a good. But I don't remember what month it was.
Well, tell me the years.
It was between 57, I think, and 63 in that time
Yep.
period.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the time period in which I was completing my rabbinical studies. I finally became a rabbi. I got to work with Reb Zalman. I was on his map, on his radar, and my life began to change in wonderful ways of going from being mostly a full-time musician to being now almost a full-time rabbi. And people besides Reb Zalman, as all my amazing teachers during that time in rabbinical school, and Yeah, that's up to 63, so I can't include my teachers now. But also, my wife Renee was a tremendous teacher to me and supportive. In I'll just tell you very quickly, and then hand things over to you. That when at the beginning of my rabbinical journey, becoming a rabbi was not that important to me. I was just doing the studying I wanted to do, and but then I realized that like a lot of other people around me were in the rabbinical program, and I said to Renee, "What do you think about me being in the rabbinical program? I'm not going to finish till like I'm almost 60." And she turned to me and she said, "Mark, you're gonna be 60 anyway."
That's a great line.
And so that was a good piece of eitzah, a good piece of advice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
So that
I'm
was
so
that was
glad. I'm so glad that you had that mission and that you finished it, and that we are the beneficiaries of your studies and of your new outlook on how to bring Judaism to everybody. So that I wanted to tell you personally how much I appreciate what you offer.
Thank you. That's very kind.
And it's the truth.
And you, good times, bad times.
I was thinking of my 20s. I think it was 22 to 29 or somewhere in there.
Yeah.
I completed college young. I had gone faster than, and so I was out at that time, and I had a horrible job, and I wanted to be a special ed teacher, and so the first job I got was a hard job in Harlem with the blind. It was sort of a job from hell, but it motivated me to leave New York. I went traveling across country with my boyfriend at the time. We spent 2 months exploring America, which was a fabulous life experience to do that. And I wound up, we started in Boston because he was going to go to BU graduate school here. And I had, with my typical New York chutzpah, said to people, I'm only going to be here for 5 days. It'd be worth your while to interview me. And at the end of the summer, I had a job in the Boston area to go to. And the rest is history, as they say. I've been in the Boston area for my whole adult life, raised my family here. But I met another man soon after. We went traveling all over the world. We went to Europe. He was well-to-do, and we would take weekends in Bermuda and that kind of thing. And we didn't wind up getting married, but I found the love of my life when I was 27, and we did get married and have 2 children. So that was all in my 20s. We since divorced, and he's gay, but that's another whole story. I didn't find that out until after that. But my 20s were really pretty much, and I explored my whole career. I started my career as a special ed teacher then.
Wow.
So a lot happened in my 20s that I was very happy about.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. And we're going to be zapped back to the other room in just a second. But I felt so energized as you were sharing all that with me.
Here we are.
I think we're all back, Eliana.
Hey, we're all back. Let me share my screen again. But, actually, let's just keep it right where it is right now, and we can just talk, seeing each other. If there's anyone who would like to talk about and share what a very good time in your life was like and what you learned from it, or what a very difficult time in your life was like and what you learned from it.
Okay, I'll go since I know I'm competing with a lot of other people that wanted to go first. Haha. Okay. What I learned when I was in the Peace Corps was, and I've always had leadership skills and abilities, like even while going to the Hebrew Academy, as a young kid, I organized shoplifting tours to go downtown Chicago, and petty theft like water guns and whatever toys we stole at Neisner's, which is no longer exist. We just give them away in the playground the next day. So it wasn't like high theft. And I've always had a leadership role in lots of activities, professionally heading up a local group in Chicago. DC, not so much actually, although I'm a native Washingtonian. So that's what I learned, that I really could be creative and assertive and show other people a good time.
Great life lessons. Thank you. Carol Ann, did you have your hand up?
Deborah has her hand up. And Mel,
Deborah.
welcome to the group, and Marlena as well. I want to acknowledge that you both came in at 7:30. Maybe you thought that we were starting and missed the early start time tonight. My apologies.
I did.
Deborah.
Well, I'm usually not very definitive about things, but when I look at what was the best time of my life, I was that woman who was a stay-at-home mom, and I did it because that's what I really, really wanted to do. And I loved it, in spite of many other problems that I had within that role, or around that role. Being a mom, and like, I was the suburban mom and the parent, the head of the PTA. And I learned a lot in doing that. And I was just, I'm happy just thinking about it. I'm still a mom, but that was when the kids were little, and it was just fabulous.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Did you have your hand up, Carol Ann?
David Sachs.
Yeah, thank you. So I will share my more difficult time, which was July, between ages 53 and 60, roughly. And I took a job which was too difficult for me in a very unfavorable, adverse situation, and learned about my own limitations in ways that I had never been confronted, and also learned from certain others around me what it meant to specifically African-American colleagues, what it meant to live and work as if your life depended on it, because it really does, because you don't have privileges that you can ride and coast on. And I think I learned a great deal from that.
Wow, thank you. Sometimes severe times are the best teachers. Thank you. Well, let's take one more if there's anyone who would like to share. Carol Ann?
In contract, I had picked the same age range of 53 to 67, because by that time in my life, I had established my own consulting service and really saw and reaped the benefit of it financially and satisfactorily in so many ways. So I had financial stability finally, and I used that time to travel, which is something I always wanted to do. And I deliberately did it during that period because I knew that maybe when I was older, I wouldn't be able to do it, either because of health and otherwise. So it was a very rich time in building relationships as well as family relationships. So I chose that period as probably a highlight of my life.
Thank you. Yeah. That's fulfilling your dream and securing your future and giving you really a sense of who you are, a sense of self.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm going to share the screen again.
Eliana, I have a question. Will these PowerPoints be available to us?
Yeah, Remark, they are going to be, aren't they?
That's up to you.
Oh, no, they're going to be then. I'll
Thank
do
you.
whatever I need to do to get it to you.
Thank you.
So when, if you make the decision to join us in our wisdom circle for more sessions on aging to saging, we will go into the story of our lives, chapter by chapter, and think about the significant moments and events of each stage. Which events were painful and joyous? Which events caused you to learn about yourself, whether they were joyous times or painful times? And who was influential in your life? Because it's those people who were influential in your life, if they were severe teachers who taught you a great lesson, maybe they didn't intend to, but they did. There's some gratitude that we need to bear for them. And if they were great teachers who were loving, kind, and a shining example of who we want to be, those were teachers who we always need to be grateful for. So I encourage you to think about coming to our wisdom circle. So how do we go from aging to saging? Well, we have a choice. We can go to aging or we can go to saging. And Reb Zalman has left a path for us to go on to find saging. Reb Zalman said that we don't automatically become sages just because we've lived a long time. What we automatically become is old, not sages. People who desire to be sages are those who go through a process of deliberate, conscious growth. We learn to guide our family, our tribe, our community, our nation, and our world with our hard-earned wisdom. And this journey beyond midlife is a complex path. Reb Zalman said it includes changing, becoming, teaching, learning, forgetting, forgiving, loving, losing, waxing, waning, ailing, healing, caring, feeling pain, savoring pleasure, doing, being, living, and dying. Really, when I think back on my life, I think that the first part of my life was acquisition. I acquired my birth family. I acquired my education. I found friends. I found my husband. We married. We had children. And then changes started. The children left home. My parents died. Some of the changes that I might look forward to are not being able to live in the home that we live in right now. Losing my health. Losing maybe even my memory of who I am. And then finally dying. So life is acquiring and letting go. That's the rhythm. Reb Zalman said that there is a sine qua non for saging. And sine qua non means something absolutely essential and indispensable. And so these are the items that Reb Zalman listed as his sine qua non. To take hold of the willingness to deal with life completion and to overcome the desire to stay in the denial of aging. A whole lot of us cling to that denial of aging. And we have to realize that we have to cross the river of denial in order to get to the promised land. Another sine qua non of saging is to pay attention to your body, your feelings, mind, and spirit. That is, if our body tells us that we need a nap, well, gosh, we have to take a nap. We don't have to pull over all-nighters anymore. And our mind might tell us that we want to continue to learn. And so we have to motivate ourselves to get into a class or to read a book. Our spirit might just long for and hunger for friends. And so we have to go ahead and take steps to build that support system. We have to be guided by these things and maintain them in the right tone, mood, and attitude. We have to begin to do life repair in relationships between the generations. In other words, if you have a problem with your daughter-in-law, there's no time like the present to release the past, offer release and healing. And we have to attend to practical matters. Like Hoff said in his workshop 2 weeks ago, we have to attend to living wills, ethical wills, last wills, and testaments. And Reb Zalman says that one of the most important sine qua non of saging is to forgive. And it's also one of the most difficult. To find an inner release from vindictiveness and anger, to recognize the lessons learned from difficult life situations, and to finally come to some sense of gratitude. The sine qua non of aging involves raising questions about the purpose and meaning of our lives. The question like, not just who are we, but who am I? Where do I fit in? What do I have to offer? And how can I give that away? Another sine qua non of aging is to serve as an elder to others by being a guide, a mentor, a mediator, a promoter of peace in our family, our community, and our nation, to be a wisdom keeper. We need to come to terms with our mortality. When it comes to death, none of us get a get out of jail free card. It's going to happen. And I wonder, well, I'm sure that most of us pray the Shema as our nighttime prayer, just in case we die, because we know that's supposed to be the last prayer on the lips of the dying. So just in case we might die during the night, we hedge our bets and pray the Shema. Well, the fact is that we are going to die one day or night. And perhaps when we say the Shema, we should thank our dear beloved for the day that we've had and surrender into the wings of Shekhinah for a peaceful night's sleep. One of the sine qua non of aging is to prepare for a serene death and to leave a legacy for our children and grandchildren. The sine qua non of saging is difficult, but it's not impossible. So I'm going to ask you again to please join us as we study, learn, and evolve together. Join us as we go through a process of conscious, deliberate growth. And join us as we together learn how to guide our family, our community, with the wisdom of our lives. I am, as I said before, I'm a saging mentor, and I'll be offering 3 more free classes about saging, discussing embracing life and living the second half of life with joy, compassion, and awareness, and also how to use those tools that we learn for the expression of our personal wisdom as we move forward. In a minute, I'll be taking an informal poll of people who might be interested in coming to our wisdom circle by a raise of hands. And in the next several days or weeks, we will figure out the days and times that work, and we will send out more information. So now I'm going to stop the share and come back with you. And I do want to ask first if you have any questions. Oh, okay. Helene, I think you were first, and then Carol Ann, and then Mary Rita.
Great, thank you. So in terms of the class, will it meet for an hour, 2 hours? So just a question about that. And then I have a question after that, but what's that answer?
Okay. The plans for the class is a 1 hour class for 3 or 4 consecutive weeks on the same day of the week for an hour each time.
Thank you.
And we'll try to get a poll of when is best for you, because
Right.
now we're coming into the summer. I know there's people who have vacations, and we need to figure out a time that's best for you. It will probably be on a Monday or a Tuesday. It definitely will not be on Wednesday, nor will it be on Friday
Got
or
it.
Saturday.
Thank you. And then
Okay.
you actually answered the other question. So I loved tonight, and it was a lot, and I have to process it. So the class will have homework, I assume,
Oh, yes.
or an invitation to do homework.
It's an invitation to do homework. And of course, that's totally up to you. It just accelerates your learning and deepens the depth of what we're doing.
So how much time between classes would one spend on this lovely project?
Oh my, well, you can spend as much time as you would like. I would say that an average would be at least an hour in between
Okay.
classes.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Eliana.
Yeah.
I think Carol Ann has a question, Eliana.
Carol Ann?
Yes, and what I know a few people who might be interested, but they're not Jewish. Would it be, are you moving it in that direction, or would they be comfortable?
Oh, they'd be very comfortable. They can sit right next to my husband, Joe, who's not Jewish.
You've used a few examples, so I wasn't sure.
Yes, right. Well, we come from a Jewish background with this education and presentation, but aging is universal.
Of course.
And the wisdom that we can use and take and give out again is universal too.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions, Mary Rita?
Yeah, it's also about timing. So but I think I'll just wait to see what happens. Right now, I'm in a class, Death as a Homecoming, and I still have 2 more weeks of that. But I'm also starting the Tree of Life class with Reb Nadja. So I have 4 more weeks of classes through Yerusha, and I would love to do yours, but it depends on timing because, yes, Dan, because I know what homework's like. We're still working on the homework, maybe, from Death as a Homecoming.
Mary Rita, I'm very glad to hear you say that you're taking Death as Homecoming. Let me just say this. The class that I'm teaching is the very first class in a series of 3. The second class is Death as Homecoming. And if you've taken my class and Death as Homecoming, you qualify to take the 3rd class, which is Becoming a Mentor of Aging to Saging, where you can teach it yourselves.
I know that, and I'm interested in that. And I also have an Aging to Saging class in the fall through Hashba'ah.
All right, you do.
But But this was really your questions tonight, and your presentation was really excellent, and the prompts for the breakthrough rooms. Thank you.
So if you're interested, make sure that you you let me or Eliana know in some way. You can write to me as someone else did privately in the chat, or you can just raise your hand right now if you would like to get the information going forward and be on the list of people who will who are interested. You're not making any kind of commitment. Okay. Let me see. Mel, you raising your hand to answer that question that you're interested? Okay, great. And Mira, Appel, and David Sachs, and Steve Silverstein, and Mary Rita. Okay, Roxanne. So I should ask who's not interested. Joe Lee. Oh, Joe, you're interested in taking Eliana's class. That's like the ultimate, high five, Helene. Okay, great.
He's going to grow old with me because the best is yet to be.
Well, you know what? That's mostly everybody. I'm just going to send everybody who's here tonight. You'll be on the list. If you end up not, participating and not answering the question in the poll, that's fine. Okay.
Mel, do you have something else to say? Mel?
No, I think he just has his hand up still.
Wait,
Okay. Anything
one
else? Eliana, you want to bring this in for a landing, just a closure, and then we'll count the Omer and say goodnight.
Mayura had a question.
Yes, thank you. I won't take long. I have taken the class Aging to Saging at Yerusha already, but I was very curious as how you presented it in a way. I think when you're with new people, it's new again. So is that okay to take it twice?
Of course. I've taken it several times.
I think I was in your class once. That's why. But you did a lovely job. Thank you so much for including it.
Thank you.
Okay, if that's all questions, then Eliana, thank you so much for not only offering the continuing classes, but for sharing your wisdom and your big heart with everyone tonight. I'm excited for you all to go on this journey with Eliana, and then we'll be able to mentor each other and grow elder together. That's really wonderful. So you mentioned a couple of things. Before we count the Omer, I just want to point in the direction, when you talk about paying attention to body and feelings and mind and spirit, of course, this is Reb Zalman bringing our attention to eldering, saging work in all four worlds, right? In the world of Asiya, Yetzirah, Bria, and Silut, corresponding to body, feelings, mind, and spirit. And so the work is multidimensional in that way of bringing our attention and finding ways to articulate how we have been in those worlds at different stages of our lives. The other thing is I mentioned this to you, Eliana, before when you and I were working together, brings to mind when an elder dies. Some of you might know this quote. I believe it's a Native American quote, that when an elder dies, it's as if an entire library has burned to the ground. And you also mentioned, Eliana, Shema and the bedtime Shema and not knowing when that moment of death is going to come. The Baal Shem Tov teaches that we have just a certain number of words to speak in our lifetime, and then that's it. But I don't know what my count is, thank God. But speaking of the Shema, next week, Mark Kronish is going to be teaching on the Shema in all four worlds. So if you want to open up a little bit more learning about the Shema, so that it's you have more things to bookmark, more bookmarks to open up when you're chanting the Shema, it's going to be a wonderful time. All righty, so I will share my screen with you. to share with you the chanting of the reading of the Omer. The first line that I will chant is not in what I'm going to share with you. But the most important thing for you to know, if you don't already know, is that yesterday was day 32. Okay. And I'll just give you a little heads up that no one knows the historicity truly of why Lag BaOmer is celebrated at all. Some people date it back to Shimon Bar Yochai, who is reputed to have written the Zohar, the primary mystical text. And there's a wonderful connection because, he goes into a cave and comes out several years later when things are safe. He escapes from the Romans. And so he goes from darkness to light and then brings even more light into the world, which is why one understanding of why bonfires are lit on Tu B'Shvat, not on Tu B'Shvat, on Lag BaOmer. And although if you asked either of my sons who grew up in Israel, and I intend to do this tomorrow, why you lit, why? The custom in Israel is to go steal firewood from construction sites so that you can then light it on fire, have bonfires on Lag BaOmer. I don't think that they could answer that question about why they do that, but I'm going to ask them that question. And last but not least, if you ever have had the good fortune of flying out of Israel on Lag BaOmer and seeing out your airplane window bonfires, a lighting everywhere. I once had that wonderful, wonderful experience. So, Eliana, thank you for lighting the fire for us this evening. And let me share the screen with you and we'll all read together. There it is. L'Shem yichud kutshabrichu shintei Hineni mukhan u'mazuman lekayem et mitzvasei shel sfirat ha'omer, shel sfirat ha'omer, shel sfirat ha'omer, shel sfirat ha'omer. 7 weeks you shall count, Sheva Shabbatot. Timimotiena, 7 full weeks. Sheva Shabbatot, from Pesach until Shavuot. Baruch atah Havaya, Eloheinu Ruach HaChayim, Asher Kiddushanu, b'mitzvotav etzivanu, al sfirat ha'omer, al sfirat ha'omer, al sfirat ha'omer, al sfirat ha'omer. Hayom 33 yom, shehem 4 shavuot v'chamisha yamim la'omer. Together in the English, today is 33 days, which is 4 weeks and 5 days of the Omer. And as Reb Rami Shapiro, in his wonderful, wonderful accounting of the Omer, points out that today is Hod Shebahod, your capacity to be humble without also being self-serving, which reminds me of the car sticker, which says, "Let me tell you about my humility." So Lag BaOmer, no work to do. You can take the spiritual day off if you want to on working on something. We need a break. Asfirat ha'omer. Laila Tov, everyone. Thank you for joining Eliana in a taste of aging to saging. I hope that you'll all decide to join her on this magnificent journey, excellent adventure. Good night, everybody. Yada-da. Oh, here's for you, Eliana. All we need is love. Yada-di-di-di. All we need is love. All we need is love, love. Love is all you need. All you need is love. All together now. All you need is now. Everybody now. All you need is love, love. Love is all you need. She loves you, yeah, yeah, yeah. Ahava, rava, ahava, rava. Check out Helene. Good night, everybody. Thank you so, so much.
Lila Tov.
Laila Tov.
Lila Tov.
Lila Tov.